What's going on, folks? Welcome back to the channel. Really do appreciate being here. Hi, I'm Chris. If you are new here, I've been reselling for about 2 years now. And today I wanted to actually take you through, it was actually a bit of a question statement that I got asking around, as I've been progressing into going op shopping and going thrifting, how has my experience of knowledge and working out what to buy and what to sell, how has that changed? And that's what I want to address today. So essentially what we're talking about is my journey of learning to find the best selling items in op shops. Now, what I'll be covering in this video is some background of my early experiences, but also talking about, what actually changed and why I changed my approach and actually started doing this, as a full-timer, but also then diving into basically taking you through that journey, giving you some insights along the way, and hopefully helping you understand that a lot of this does take time, but the more you do it, the more rewarding it can be as well. And I also want to make sure very, very clearly that I don't have it all figured out. I'm still learning every day. So come along, see if you can learn from me, but I would love to hear from you. If you've got any insights of your own that you want to share, chuck them down in the comments as we progress through this video. It would mean the absolute world to me. Do stick around because at the end, I'll take you through the show and tell and how we have progressed for the week. Let's dive in. So a little bit of background from my own early experiences. I mean, my dad has been buying and selling since I can remember. Not small stuff like cars and vehicles, but it's always been in the back of my mind going to swap meets and things like that. So I've always seen it. And I've also been a bit of a entrepreneurial in some sense. I think my first little business gig that I did was selling Yu-Gi-Oh cards and selling frogs actually to an aquarium. So that's a whole different conversation. But, I started probably doing thrifting more so with my mate back in the day, probably around 2016, 2018. And we were just looking for, pop culture items, things of my own wants and needs. For things that I liked. Now, at the same time, while doing that, I would find things that I think, hey, actually, this is worth a little bit of money. So I figured I may start, buying that and I'll sell it at some point. But a lot of the time I never did. I just kind of kept it lying around. And it was way back, actually, probably even before I was doing all this, I actually was thinking about creating a video of I've been selling on eBay for 30 days and these were the results. And I never did it. I never got around to it. And it was only as we progressed into the pandemic that, if you don't know my story, essentially what happened was, I got sick and tired of working the 9 to 5 and I wanted to make a change. And I figured that reselling was going to be the quickest way to do it, because about 6 months before I made that decision, I actually went through and I found all the stuff that I had lying around. And I think, what I was trying to do was thinking about making a video, and I figured, maybe I'll try and sell some of this stuff. So I was being able to make about $40 to $100 a month just selling these random different things that I found. And back then you could only do 20 listings a month for free or something. So, that was a little bit of fun and games. But when I actually made the decision to actually step away from the 9 to 5, I actually wanted to focus on my podcast, build out that brand, Feather Your Lifestyle. And I knew I needed some way to make, some income as a primary income. And that was reselling, because I knew I'd done it before and I knew I could do it again, and I knew I could do it at scale. So I kind of doubled down on research and, binge watching a few other people and figuring out how can I do this and make it work. So I started to then scale in probably about 3 months before actually leaving my 9 to 5 as a leave of absence. And started to really just build out the processes, the understanding, and just kind of took it as a risk or an investment to make sure that I could make this happen. So what really changed is I was now going into op shops, and my way of operating, my way of intent changed. I wasn't just going in there looking for cool things, for video games or, collectibles or things that I wanted for my own collection. I was going in there looking for things with the intent to sell. I was going in there to look to make money, right? And I think that changes my perspective of how you operate, because naturally, and I still do this today, when I walk into an op shop, I look at all the things that I know. I go to books because that's just where I've naturally progressed to over time. But I would go there, look at fantasy, look at stuff like Star Wars books and things that I liked, things that was relevant to my lifestyle. And rather than looking at them for myself, I would look, hey, this is worth money. So I would then try and buy that to sell it. And I would then start to do that in other areas of the shop, whether it was toys or movies, video games. And that's where you get familiar with, right? But then I also started to try new things. I started to look in the bric-a-brac. I started to look in clothing. I started to see what other people were selling. And I was able to then start to try new things. Test this, try that. Made a lot of mistakes along the way. I've still got some things listed from 2 years ago, which I probably should get rid of by now, that still haven't sold. But then again, I've sold stuff that's been sitting around for 2 years because someone comes along and says, I've been looking this forever, had no idea it was here, and they've paid full price. So sometimes you live and you learn, sometimes you do get lucky, but sometimes you make some big mistakes, right? And I think that's all part of it. So naturally for me, books have been where I found a quick win. My dad used to buy and sell a lot of books as well, Biggles books actually. So again, I do have a somewhat of a background in that area. But the challenge here was, taking the risk, but then there's also ways of how to minimize that risk. And now 2 years later, and I've actually quit my 9 to 5, no longer there, even though I was on a leave of absence anyway. But if you have a look at this graph, you can see from when I started to now of how much I'm doing on a regular basis per week. And this is what I was doing for the first month per week. This is what I was doing for the first 6 months. This is what I was doing for the first 12 months. And then this is what I've been doing, for the second year. And, this is now what the average looks like. So you can see it's a nice little graph here. So I'm still learning and I've still got a long way to go, but it's been an amazing journey. And I want to share with you a couple of insights or some tips and tricks that I think can make your thrift runs a little bit better. If you're trying to learn, if you're trying to figure out what to buy, then maybe this can help you. My first suggestion would be to have a plan of attack. And the way I do this is in twofold. As I mentioned before, I focus on what I know first. I do a rounds around the op shop or go to Savers, and I focus on what I know. So I usually go to the books. I usually then go to toys, and I usually also do movies and video games. And then I start to go to different areas, such as the clothing, which is probably my least known area, but now I'm starting to do that more. I then look in bric-a-brac. I look in other parts of the shop. I even try and go to the women's clothing as well. I'll do that even more so with Carla because she's got better insight. And I start to then see how I can operate with a different mindset. When I'm looking for things that I know, my mind is looking for the things that I know. Once I've cleared that space in my head because I realize, okay, I've gotten everything I know, or I couldn't find anything that I know, I can now look without that in mind. I can remove that expectation and start looking at things like, oh, what's this? Oh, this is different. Oh, that's random. Oh, that's weird. And be intrigued by it and then research it. Right now, I would challenge yourself every time you go into an op shop to see if you can look for something new. Research on the spot and see what something is worth that you've never seen before. Now, you should be leveraging your eBay app for this. I don't know if you know this, but you can go onto your eBay app and see what sold, meaning, check out items that have sold, how much they sold for, what was the postage, all that jazz. And if it's got a little skewed line through the middle, it means they took best offer. And it means you can go in there and see what it sells for. You can understand, what it's selling for different conditions, for the locations. You can also understand what people are paying for postage for it. Is it free postage? But when you do this, and if you don't know how to do this, I do have a video on it. You can jump over here and watch it. But what you also want to do is also understand what does it cost to sell an item. And what I mean by that is it's going to cost you the cost of good. It's going to cost you fees. It's going to cost you postage. And it's also maybe going to cost you some supplies. And of course, it's going to cost you your time. So you got to weigh up, is it going to be worth that risk to get the reward? So remember, when you sell something, there's an eBay fee on average, it could be 15%. There's the postage. Standard cost here in Australia for a small satchel is $9.70 tracked. And then you got to take into account, as I said before, the cost of the item, but also you're going to have to photo it. You're going to have to list it. You're going to have to send it. You need to consider all these things when weighing up if it makes sense to do it or not. And what's even better, if you have someone else that's with you, they can go, you can divide and conquer. You can send them out to go look in their area and come back and meet in the middle and then compare items and, split up and look around, see what you can do, make it fun, have a bit of fun with it. And that's what I do with my mate, Cameron. We do that on a regular basis, but I also do it with Carla as well. And again, that's how we can learn, because they will find different things that you might not have thought about. So doing it enough times and doing it on a regular basis, you'll learn better ways of doing it, and you will learn new ways, and you will learn the ways of how to do it. Now, I can look now at a book and I can look at it and say, okay, I know how much this sells for because I've sold it for. I know how much it could potentially sell for. I also know how much profit I can make from this. I can run all these numbers in my head because I know it. It's on the back of my hand. I've been doing it for so long. It's just natural to me. I know how much it costs me to send a big book, how much it costs to send a small book. How can I save on postage costs? How can I get the most profit out of this item? I can look at it and leverage that because I have experience. I've done it enough times. And that's what you need to do too. Now, there's been a lot of books that I love to sell because they're just cool to sell, but they don't sell on a very regular basis. So I can now look back and say, no, I've already got a lot of them in stock, so I'm not going to buy any more of them. And that was a mistake that I used to make. I used to buy a lot of the same stuff thinking because I know it will sell, but it sits around for a long time. One thing to consider is sell-through rate, right? If you can buy things and you know they're going to move on a weekly or maybe 30-day basis, it's not too bad. But when things start getting past that 90-day, if you've spent, $100, but it's taking you $90 to get that $100 back, it might not be worth it. It's different for everyone, And you've got to consider storage space as well. So really do consider that one. The benefit is if it doesn't sell, you'll never buy it again. So you can learn. It means you're going to be getting better as you progress. And that really comes down to the key number one tip, which is learn from your mistakes. Always be learning. And I'm always learning. That's the reality of it. I've still got so many things. I actually made a mistake the other day. I purchased the King of Queens DVD set, and I don't know if the video's come out yet. It might have or might not have. But essentially there's 9 seasons. Now I picked up the first one and it was only $2. I was like, sweet. So I grabbed all 9, checked all the CDs. They were perfect. I did not check the price tag of them all. And I didn't even really pay attention when I was buying them. And when I got in the car and I went through the docket, I realized, hang on, this is more expensive than it should have been. And some of these, they charged me $8 for. When they were $2, when one was $2, another was $2, and then it went to 3, and then one was like 8, one was 5, one was 7, one was 8. And I was like, it's like 9 seasons. And it worked out that I overpaid for them, right? Now, I'll get my money back on that, probably just get my money back on that, but it'll probably sell not too bad. It probably won't sit around too long. The reality is you need to check yourself. You need to keep it real. You need to be, I don't know. I don't have it all figured out, and I still make mistakes too. So you need to understand, does it make sense to do this? You need to check yourself. You need to be weighing up, does it make sense, right? And if you make a mistake, own it. Take responsibility for it, be accountable to it, and don't make the mistake again. Take your time learning and understand what works for you and what doesn't, and then apply that knowledge as you thrift. I mean, you can learn from me, you can learn from other people, but again, you're going to get the best experience learning if you're out doing it yourself. I can say though, it gets easier as you learn to look for certain things. If you're doing certain niches, if you're doing certain areas, as you start to skim through the op shop, you'll notice colors, styles, wording, and things that trigger your attention. It also gets easier to post and knowing how to save when posting sold items. So you can have better margins. And the more reps you do, the more opportunity you have to create a better outcome. So the reality of it all is this: you're going to have highs, you're going to have lows, there's going to be roller coasters. As you can see my results right here. It's a roller coaster. And I've had some big op shop runs. I've had, some some big ones where I've pulled out some really good stuff, picked up things for $1 and sold them for $190. And I've had ones where I haven't, but you can see here, my average month of spend in op shops is around $526. And the average month of revenue that comes from those same op shop trips is around $1,619. So I'm basically 3xing my money. This isn't profit, this is revenue, right? And net profit margin is about 39%. So that's the reality of it. This is the fact. You will buy things that you should not have. You will learn from that, or you should learn from that. And that is the secret. You can only go from being clueless to being clued in if you experience it, if you take some low cost risks, try new things, test out new items, make some mistakes, learn from those mistakes, and then start to niche down, start to double down, and then focus on what you enjoy. Focus on what works for you and focus on what makes money for you. So let's recap. Let's take it back. What did we actually cover? Myself, I started out as an amateur, right? We're all starting from zero, and that's what you need to understand. I was basically focusing on personal finds and looking for really cheap bargains of things that I knew. But then when I changed my game, when I changed my lifestyle goal of wanting to work for myself and get out of the 9 to 5, I started to, change how I operated. And I went from doing maybe $40 to $100 a month, that was just as a part-time, side hustle, to starting to focus on reselling full-time. And I had to change the way I operated. I had to change the way I thought. I had to change my intent. We did. We went through a process just now, and I shared with you some tips and strategies of finding good items and how I operate, how I have a plan of attack, how I research items on the spot, how I use the eBay app to make my life easier in understanding, does this make sense to do? And you need to consider the fees, the postage costs, the cost to sell an item. And I also emphasize the importance of learning from your mistakes, adjusting your approach along the way, and being willing to get some big success, but also having some failures to help make that success even better for the future. And that's what I wanted to share with you today. I hope this has been insightful. I hope this has helped you. But if you've stuck around this long, I'm going to show you some insights of what's been happening this week. I'll take you through the progress of week 105 and also some show and tell of behind the scenes of what's been happening in my business. Appreciate you. Let's dive in. Alright team, let's dive into what's been selling for week 105, and I'll also take you through the progress and all the details. Of course, if you do stick around, I've got behind the scenes as well. So let's dive into it. So a couple of cool items that have been selling for this week, and I've got 4 here for you. I did have some feedback on this layout, so I do appreciate it. I'm going to keep doing it this way for a bit, and we'll see how we can spice it up as we move further into the year. So this first item, To the Mask Omnibus books. I paid $5.21 for these. Picked these up at a local Salvos actually. Now these ones $5.21, and I've been able to sell them for $100. I did have them for $160. Someone made me an offer for $100. I figured, why not? I mean, come on, let's just do it already. So $100 sold, and after fees and postage, I've walked away with $65.29. Another item that's been selling for this week is this Matchbox lot of, I think it was, yes, I did just count those. There was a total of 10 here. So I paid $2.50 for these, got these in a little bag, sold them for $60. They did sit for a while, but after fees and postage, I've been able to walk away with $37.73. Cool item, and actually top item number 3 for this week was actually this Raptors 15 jersey. Now, I know nothing about NBA jerseys or anything like that. I actually picked these up from this up from Savers in the video that's coming out later this week. For this one, I paid $4.97 for it. As an average cost of good, I think it was actually about $16 by itself, and I've been able to sell this one for $60. It didn't sit around for too long, I think only a day after I listed it, and after fees and postage, I will walk away with $36.67. And another cool item for this week is this Lord of the Rings, basically the extended collector's edition. This is for Fellowship of the Ring, Two Towers, and also for Return of the King. This one I actually picked up, not too bad. Average cost of good was about $1.78. I think it was about $10 from Savers. And it's been sitting around probably for about 3-4 months. Been able to sell it for $50, and after fees and postage, I've walked away with $30.20. Now, I will say that this week's actually been very, very rewarding. The results have actually come out pretty good. Now, at the time of this video, which is Sunday night at 8:38 p.m, you probably can't see that. Maybe you can. There you can. I've actually done really, really well, and we're going to get into those details in a second, but the results in terms of what's actually been selling, you can have a look here on the screen. I've been selling a lot of Lego, shoes, books, DVDs, and videos. I did sell some personal Lego collection, stuff that I'd purchased from years ago, just to help get some extra cash in the kitty as I plan to grow the business this year. And as you can see here, also DVDs, books, as I said before, I've been actually stepping it up with clothes. As you know, I've been documenting that process a bit, so it's starting to, it's really good to actually start to see some of these actually ticking over and moving out of the store. There's $349, and that in itself is quite rewarding because I haven't been doing clothes at all, really. You know, here and there, wherever maybe more so jeans, but essentially here there's $349 because I've been listing more clothes. There's sales that I would never have had before because I wasn't doing that category, and this is why it's important to try new things and take your time learn and how to experience it, and then you can start to, you know, get some sales as well. Obviously, it's not always going to be like this, but the reality is it's been pretty good. Now, how did we actually progress for week 105? So at the time of this video, as I said before, it was about 8:38 on Sunday evening before this video comes out. Revenue at this point in time is $2,589. Cost of goods has been $254, and profit actually $1,349 at the moment. And profit, this is gross profit, just for the record, is actually $1,349.92 at the time of this video. Quantity sold, we did 64, and ASP, we're currently sitting on $40.46, and average cycle time is around 81 days. So, you know, things are moving out less than the 90-day cycle, but I would love to have things moving out quicker. Yeah, so that's week 105, been really, really rewarding, really, really encouraging. And now we're going to dive into some show and tell. What's going on, team? It is Monday. I've been doing some photos and all that jazz, but I haven't really shown you any of that just because I just wanted to get some work done. But what I will show you is different stuff that's been going out. I've just picked, actually it's not 28 items, it was 38 items. So 38 items, 12 minutes to pull out everything. We've got quite a lot of media going out. We've got bundles of books, we've got some Lego, we've got some shirts, we've got this little guy, the Muppets going out, Lord of the Rings, media, some Golden books, Mario Party DS, fair bit of clothing. Now that I've started doing clothing, seeing the clothing going out. Bundle of these guys. This guy I picked up the other day. This guy went for about 150. This is this thing that I sold. It's crazy. Little watch. Lots of interesting stuff. So we're going to pack it all up. Just wanted to share with you what I've got going out. Lots of different things. Appreciate you. Alright team, welcome to Thursday. We've got Carla in full force here. Woohoo! Nah, she's just testing out a few things. while I'm about to do some picking, packing and posting. Probably won't document as much today just because it's a bit crowded in here, but we're still working at that kind of workflow. But yeah, it's all happening. Good to have some helping hands. She offered. It's not forced or anything like that. All right, team, I'll keep you updated as we go. All right, team, here's all the stuff that is going out. We've got about 25, 26 items, lots of books. We've got a whole bunch of Noddy going out here. We've got some Sarah Douglas. We've got some cars. We've got lots of clothes going out since I've been doing clothes. Clothes are starting to sell, makes sense. Dragonlands, we've got a nice little belt buckle going out here. A few DVDs, some more books, Assassin's Creed books. This little Thomas thing. It's interesting what sales goes. Oh, and we've got Lord of the Rings. So not too bad. And this one's going at it over here. All right, team, all done. 1 hour and 16 minutes for all these. Bit of everything going out. I forgot to show you this. That's a big piece of Lego. Carla's all done. She's ready to go. Walking around waving scissors in her hands. All right, team, appreciate you. If you've got any questions, you know what to do. Yeah, ciao.
Peace.
Well, there you go. Really do appreciate you being here. Thanks for swinging by. Now, I will ask if you've got any comments, questions, chuck them down below. Would love to hear from you. If you've got some tips and tricks of how you've been able to develop your understanding and get better at, finding items while out hunting, let us know in the comments. I'd love to share them with everyone else as well. Otherwise, appreciate you being here. You have a wonderful day. Cheers.